Welcome to My Favorite Sketch Updates version 3.7. So the first major update you're going to see in this version of Sketch is that when you shake your cursor really fast, the cursor actually becomes the Sketch logo now. I'm just kidding, that's not actually an update. So the first thing we're going to dive into is going to be revolved around symbols. That's the major thing they're touting in this update, so we're going to go through and see some of the details. So I'm going to use some of Facebook's templates here to recreate a messages UI and show you some of the details. So you can see here, right now this is just a traditional group. In order to get started, I'm going to create a symbol. And the first difference you're going to see here is that you have this little palette and you have the option to send to symbols page. So I'm going to say OK, and now I'm going to go take you to the symbols page. This is a special page over here where all of the symbols in the document are going to be nicely organized. Pretty cool. We'll get into that a little bit later. So to get into the text and image overrides, I'm going to copy this a couple of times, space it out, and start playing around with some of the overrides to show you what I mean. So we have the timestamp here, and I'm going to go over here, enter in an actual time. And now you can see that the text has changed in this symbol, but not in any of the others. That's not too different than previous text overrides, but it'll get better. All right, I went ahead and filled out all of the text overrides real quickly, as you can see over here, because I wanted to jump into the image overrides. So you can see right now all the usernames are individual, but the avatars are all the same. Previously, this would be a problem, and I would have to essentially make a new symbol in order to change the instance of this avatar or exclude the avatar from the symbol. Now you can see there is a special thing here where I can choose an image. So let's say I wanted to update that. I can just drop one in there. I'm going to quickly do this for each one. And you can see that even though we're working in the same symbol, that text and image is unique and different for each one of these cells. Now let's say Apple got real crazy and wanted to include an emoji after everybody's name in your messages list. This is where nested symbols and trailing layers is going to help you out. So the emoji right now is just a layer. I'm going to create a symbol out of it. I'm going to take off the artboard, put it on my clipboard. I'm going to go to this particular symbol and I'm going to paste it in. So what I just did was I put a symbol inside of a symbol. Previously impossible. And now I'm going to come back here and you're going to see voodoo magic. So the symbol is now inside of another symbol, and you can see it's recognizing this as a trailing layer, so it's actually adjusting that for me based on how long this particular text string is in my text override, which is wonderful. Let's go back to the symbols, and let's say I want that to be a different emoji, like this one. So now, going back here, so the symbol inside of our greater symbol is now updated and trailing behind the layers. Now that we've gone over nested symbols, let's go over nested symbols. So there might be an instance where you want to duplicate this artboard and you want to do something like space these out a little bit further. So maybe instead of 16 pixels, I want something like 30. But now I'm like, all of these are symbols which are linked, but now the space is different on these two different pages. So rather than doing that, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And I'm going to take all the content on this messages view and create a symbol out of it. Oops. Okay. So now I'm going to duplicate the artboard again. And now when I want to adjust the spacing, I'm going to double click. So now I'm actually on the symbols page and you can see the messages view. Over here you can see our symbol which represents these cells. So now I'm going to go in here and change it to 40. Which brings us to another cool little feature. You can see the content is running off the screen. So if I go back, you're going to see, I can still see the content, but the boundaries of this particular object stop here. So I'm going to go back to symbols. I'm going to grab this artboard, and I'm actually going to resize to fit, which is nifty. Come back here, and now you can see the boundaries of that particular symbol match the content, and both of these screens are perfectly in sync because it's symbols inside of symbols. Let's go ahead and step back one, and instead of selecting all of this content and making a symbol out of it, let's say I feel that this entire screen is going to be repeated throughout my document. I can actually grab the entire artboard and make a symbol out of it. It's going to give you some text that might not make a whole lot of sense, but just mess around with it and then it'll make more sense. It's a little strange at first, a little slow, but what's happening is the symbol is just right under your cursor, so I'm going to click and it's going to now actually appear. One quick note, if you put a symbol inside of itself, instead of making a black hole, they just show you this friendly little red stuff. So I'm going to pull it back out, so now we can talk about it. So this here is the symbol, and this here is the original instance of the symbol as the original artboard. That might seem a little bit confusing until you realize that these symbols on the symbols page are really just artboards. So all of this is an artboard that is a symbol that stayed on the page where you made it. So now you can see I have the benefit of being able to move it around. It's kind of cool. I get to watch it update live. You also get the benefit of, let's say, you know, I get tons of text messages, and now I have a lot of people on my list. I can stretch the artboard down, and this symbol reflects that change. Now let's talk about copying symbols and styles between documents. So right now I'm in my favorite Sketch Updates version 3.7, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this artboard, create an untitled document, paste it in, and I'm going to go ahead and change the username to be red. Okay, so I'm going to go back. You can see our handy dandy symbols have updated. Don't need to save that actually. So I'm going to copy this artboard, go back to the original document, and paste it in. Looks like it landed on top of another. But you can see in previous versions of Sketch, if I were to take an instance of the symbol, move it to a different document, edit it, and bring it back, it would edit all the symbols in the previous document to reflect the new changes. Now, it's not going to do that. So I have this artboard symbol, and now I have a second artboard symbol which represents this one with the red text. So now it's not going to kind of like make sweeping changes to your document. It's simply going to make copies of your symbols as you paste them. The last thing we'll go over are some small but mighty changes to text styles as well as some of the layout items of Sketch itself. So for the first thing we'll go over, I'm just going to duplicate this artboard, take some stuff off of it, and put some text on the artboard. So I'm going to make this into a text style and then show you how you can now change things about a text style without updating the original style. So these are sort of like one-off changes, but you don't necessarily want to make an entirely new type style. You'll also see this new icon over here, which is essentially going to sync everything back together. So this is kind of like the outlier here, but if I go up here and I hit that symbol, all of the other styles are going to update to match this one. Control Z also works way better with styles, which is nice. So you can see I hit Control Z and it went back to the original style and even kept this one the way it is. Now it might get a little bit confusing at first when you start messing around and trying to figure out, you know, what's the parent style and what's the one-off style, and if I hit the symbol, what in the world is going to happen? At least the nice thing is, when I hit Control Z, everything goes back to the way it just was. The best way to think of it though is that whenever you hit this Sync Your Styles button, not sure if that's what it's called, the current layer that you have selected is what the style is going to end up with. So you can always see that's what you're going to get when you hit the Sync button. Now I'm sure you're all familiar with this area of Sketch, the page panel. Normally when you open up a document, the layer list is very small and this is collapsed. Now going through this way of navigating pages can be a little daunting when you have, say, 20 pages in your document. So normally what a lot of people do, we'll hit that and then stretch the layer list out, and now you can easily navigate all of these items. Previously, that would kind of reset every single time you close your document, and even the width of the layer list would not be remembered between pages. Now the great thing is, if I close this document, I'll go ahead and save that, and head over and open the document again, you can see it's exactly the way I left it. Really small, but also really nice. Thanks everybody. That's it for the first episode of My Favorite Sketch Updates. Until next time.